it'd be unprecedented in the sense that neither Gerald Ford nor Jimmy Carter nor George H.W. Bush ran for president after they had lost their first reelection bid. And so this would be the first time that it's happened in recent memory. The difference this time around would be that the burden would be on Biden to defend his record, the same way the burden was on Trump to defend his record in 2020. The advantage, of course, that Biden has is that while he can't campaign against Trump now, he can campaign against Trump's previous presidencies.
And if they focus too much on Trump, which is pretty an easy way of doing things, I think it makes them more vulnerable. They have to explain what Biden has already done for the American voter and what keeping him in office will continue to provide for the American voter. Well, the equation for the Democrats is simple. Make sure that people understand that when they're voting for Joe Biden, they're voting for the Democratic Party's platform. And what is that platform? It's no longer just anti-Trump. It's about preserving reproductive choice. It's about preserving the right to organize for labor. It's for minimum wage. It's for preserving health care. It's for the things that Democrats win elections on. And that Joe Biden is just more of the spokesperson, almost the captain of the ship. And that all of the Democrats are going to be the crew of the ship.
While Trump's legal issues are likely to be a cloud that hangs over the campaign between now and 2024, they're unlikely to change the dynamics of the race because in the Republican primary side, most Republicans don't give much credence to the charges or they don't care about them. And then in the general election, there aren't many people out there who haven't already made their mind up about Donald Trump, either for him or against him.
Right. So I think for Trump, I think the sheen is a little bit damaged. I think that he's still popular, but that circle of popularity has shrunk. And I think there is a significant amount of Trump fatigue. You know, concern about Biden's age is not the same thing as being sick of the guy or worried that things will be too unstable or chaotic. So I think that's where Biden can make up for that with accomplishments. I think that the Republicans have been successful with a crime message. It has come with some racial overtones, but nonetheless, urban people vote Democratic. They're worried about crime, but suburban voters vote on crime as well. And if Biden doesn't look active on crime and gun violence, those are slightly two different things, then I think he loses some of that suburban voting wing. And that becomes a much bigger problem for him in places like Arizona and Georgia.
The United States government's efforts in the Ukraine come with a big price tag, and that's money that could be spent on domestic priorities rather than sent abroad. While there was support initially for Ukraine, if it seems to be a drawn-out engagement that's unlikely to be resolved in the near future, if that's going to leave Biden and Democrats open to attacks by Trump, that they're wasting U.S. dollars for essentially a cause that will never bear any fruit for the United States.
I think Biden has to understand the American people expect him to keep them safe from foreign attack, the economy going nicely or preventing some kind of crash, and keeping them literally safe in their homes and their communities. He has to focus on those issues on which he might be the most vulnerable to what have been Republican successes in attacking the Democrats.
So much of our politics and our language is geared toward baby boomers, but those millennials and Gen Zs are potentially a larger swath of voters than baby boomers. And they are the most diverse generation of Americans in American history. And in fact, they are the generation where America will cross over and become majority minority country. And a lot of these cultural wars that the Republican Party had, especially under Trump, have invested so much into, it is absolutely a turnoff to them. They don't even understand it. And people talk about how, President Biden's approval ratings are not great. People have such amnesia in this country, political amnesia. His ratings are about the same as Obama's was at this time going into a reelect.
These are not normal times, and therefore an argument about could we have a more robust economy coming out of a global pandemic is not something that resonates as much as this fear that there is basically Armageddon out there, right? I mean, in some ways coming from both sides, right? That there is this fear that democracy is going away, that democracy is truly on the line, that, Democrats feel this. And I guess to some extent, though they are not concerned necessarily about democracy per se, but Republicans obviously have this same sort of existential fear. So I just don't know that there is much of a constituency for people who would be persuaded by what would be these sort of normal times arguments. So no, I just don't see this again as going back to being any sort of normal election. I think that everything will be on overdrive.